Hi, I'm here with Chad Nixon from McFarland Johnson. How are you, Chad?
Good.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I want to talk to you about what McFarland Johnson is doing these days. What is new and exciting?
We have really evolved our dynamic planning services, and what that amounts to is taking a bunch of data that an airport has already. They paid a lot of money for this information through their ALP process or GIS process, and making that more useful for them, something that they can tap into and use on a daily basis instead of having to go back and relook at that data every time they want to try to change it, or go back and do a whole bunch of new planning work, via the traditional method. That's paying off a lot at larger airports and some smaller airports as well, where they're doing a master plan, or they have a master plan and they're already seeing those numbers being exceeded because things have changed at the airport.
Right. So tell me some advantages that you have maybe over some of your competitors. What do you do that's special?
So that process, we've actually patented that dynamic planning process and the tool itself. We found that as forecasts change at an airport, everything else would change as well. So all of the financials, the facility needs at the airport, and doing it the old-fashioned way just wasn't fast enough to keep up with the changes that have occurred. And you're seeing airports that are having double-digit growth year after year. How do you plan for that? You really can't. Or a new airline comes in, a major tenant, something like that. Allowing those airports to understand those what-if scenarios basically instantly is very, very helpful for them.
It's like a digital crystal ball.
Something like that, yeah.
So I live in Austin, Texas. Austin's growing exponentially.
Yep.
And what they've said is, it's really difficult to figure out what is happening 5-10 years down the road. How fast is it going to grow? How does your technology work to kind of see that picture?
So what we've seen at airports like Austin and others like that is that massive growth happening very quickly. By the time improvements are done, you have to go through an environmental process, a planning process, a design process, and then finally get to construction. By the time the construction is complete, you may already have that project be obsolete and you need more capacity. So that's kind of what we're looking at now, allowing that airport right now to understand if they change one or two things, how does that impact their ability to deal with that capacity later on, as opposed to getting all the way into the project, 2 or 3 years into it, and then at that point you're committed. How can you change? So this allows you, really instantly to take a look at that and understand what the changes will be.
I think outside the airport world, people don't understand the length of time that you really have to look down the road to figure out what a project's going to need and what's going to do. You have to think 10 steps ahead, not just one, not even two.
Right. I think that, you have a lot of folks that we work with the private industry a lot, and the speed of business is kind of what you're used to. I want to make this change, we just make the change. In the world of airports, it just doesn't work that way. It takes longer, and those lead times are important. We have another technology that looks at tree growth management. So here in Florida, it's not quite as much as an issue, but there's certainly places across the country that it is. And what that allows you to do is kind of automate the tree growth at your airport and be able to tell, listen, we have no problem now, but 4 years from now, we're going to have a major problem. That problem with that particular tree or trees is on somebody else's property. Maybe it's a school, so the whole process has to start 4 or 5 years in advance. And we've seen airports that have night minimums that have been removed or have major problems with their weather minimums because they just didn't know. They were surprised by something in their airspace. So that's another area that we're looking at as well.
I can see how mitigating that element of surprise would really help an airport plan.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to do with that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.